responding to a stimulus or a range of stimulus is called attention, right? Thus, attention refers to all those processes by which we perceive selectively. That means there can be so many things around us, but then we make a choice to look at something very specifically, right? Where we want to give our focus to, right? So, we are aware that we have senses which provide us information about external and internal world. But some regulatory mechanism allows selective pickup of the information. Okay, so you can think about, they are given a nice example in the textbook. You can think about a dish antenna, right, of the television which is placed on the top of the house, right? There are so many channels that could be subscribed to, yeah? But then when we switch on the television, we get only what we are wanting to watch to. So similarly, from a large number of stimuli that are available in the external world, attentional process limits the reception of the stimuli selectively. Thus, attentional process serve the tuner function in filtering information selectively for further processing and finally leads to perception. Now let us look at some of the meaning and the definition of attention. They are given 2, 3, 4 definitions here, right? It is very simple to understand. Attention is the term used or given to the perceptual process that selects certain inputs for the inclusion in a conscious experience or awareness at any given time. It is a process involving the act of listening and concentrating on a topic, object, or event for the attainment of the desired end. It has certain definition. Attention is the concentration of consciousness upon one object other than upon the other. Another definition also says attention is the process of getting an object or thought clearly before the mind. Attention is being keenly alive to some specific focus in our environment. It is a preparatory adjustment for the response. When we are talking with chapter, okay, I am on chapter, this is unit 8. Take unit 8 and page number 110, that is 110. Yes, did you get it? Yeah, it's all about attention. Okay, and then there are certain functions as you keep understanding what attention is. They have explained further with all the definitions, right? It is essentially a process, not a product. It helps us awareness or conscious of the environment. And then you just remember that, it is merely a cognitive factor, but essentially determined by emotion, interest, attitude, and memory. Thus, attention is a process which is carried out through cognitive abilities and helped by emotional and behavior factors. What is cognitive abilities? Cognitions are thought processes, the way we think, right? And emotional behavior factors to select something out of various stimuli. Stimuli is that which wants us to respond or react. That is what is a stimuli. So when there are so many things that is happening around us and you want to give attention to something, right? So you just do away with all the other things and just focus on that one thing what you want to. So that is what is giving attention about, where your cognition is involved, your emotions are involved, and your perspectives, like perspectual processes that when we talk about perception, I will explain that to you, right? Okay, so everything is involved, and that's how, that's what is called attention. When we focus on something specific, when our thought processes are involved and when our emotions are involved. And there are so many functions, right? It is given, again, I'm on page number 110, right? Attention is a central process and perception is not possible without attentional process. See, there is a difference between attention and perception. Okay, attention is just we are focusing on something very, very specific. When we are talking about perception, perception is a little more than attention. Perception is not only what you are seeing, but how you are understanding what you are seeing and how you are interpreting your understanding. Okay, so it is a little more than that. We will talk about it in perception. The various functions of attentions are, now what are the functions? Alerting function, selective function, limited capacity channel, and vigilance, right? So these are different types of functions, right? We are alert. When we are alert, it's one type of an attention. When we are selective about looking at something or giving ourselves something, it is a selective function. Limited capacity, a lot of things can be happening around us, but then we limit our capacity only to what we want to give attention to and the vigilance. Okay, let us take one by one, right? So alerting function, what is alerting function, right? Carefully observe a cat poised in a mouse hole. If you look at the cat carefully in such a situation, you'll observe that the ears of the cat are directed towards the mouse hole, right? So this is a very simple example of being very alert. That is, when you look at a cat, the cat wants to attack the mouse, right? And if there is a mouse hole, the way the cat wants to catch the rat, no, the way it sits and the way the ears are turned towards that shows that the cat is in full attention. That is completely alert, you know, so that it can catch the mouse. So that is a nice example. Okay, so you'll observe the ears of the cat directed towards the mouse hole, and even the slightest sound of the movement in the hole also, the cat becomes aware. Eyes are converged and focused on the hole, so the visuals are involved of the cat, and then the four legs are in a state of alert. That is, it's ready to pounce, it is ready to jump to catch the rat. Okay, so that is what means alertness. So remember the when you're when anything related to focus on attention, if you get a small note answer on what is alert attention, remember the cat, right? Give the example of the cat of how it sits to catch the mouse and how it focuses, you know, the way it looks at only the whole, the visual aspect, right? And the ears that is so attentive even to the slightest of the noise and to the legs and all that. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure you'll understand this. So there is a complete physiological and mental preparedness to catch the prey. This is an example of alertness, what we call as alerting function. We'll also notice that cat is allocating all its available attention and the resources to demonstrate the alertness nature of the function. Attention in this sense refers to a state of focused awareness, right? With readiness to respond. Yeah. So distraction occurs when some interference, that is loud noise, prevents the individual to continue with the ongoing task. Okay, let's move on to the next one, selective function. What is the selective function of the attention? The most important function is the selectivity. The most important function of attention is selectivity. Like, when you are giving attention, you select, right? Even in listening, right? Sometimes we practice the selective listening. So many things can be spoken about in a communication, but then you have a tendency to selectively listen only what you want to listen, right? So similarly, selectivity refers to a process in which attention is focused on the stimuli or stimuli of ongoing interest and other stimuli are ignored. So there can be many things happening, but then we only selectively pick up those things that we want to give attention to. Selective attention acts as a filter that allows some information in and other unwanted. The best example of selective attention is the tea party effect, right? So you'll observe in such parties, okay, when you have a party happening, right? A lot of people are coming and going and all that. Your name from somewhere, from some corner of the room. Immediately we pay attention to that, right? There are so many noises. There will be music playing and there will be children playing, but all that is now, despite all that, when our name is attended, immediately our ears get in tune to that. So that is what it means to be selectively listening. That is selective attention, right? We give attention in a very selective manner. Okay, so that I think is very simple. You can understand. Limited capacity channel is, see, examples are already given. Even when you are driving, right? Driving, if you are driving for a long period of time, it becomes an auto response, right? You don't really have to struggle to, look at the brake or, hold the brake tight, or be very careful about that. You get used to driving. But then you also, you can also switch on the music, like, you can put on your earphones and still do the driving. Okay, but then that is limited to only to these two things, but we can't do more than that, right? So that is what is about the limited capacity. In this sense, we are serial processors. That means two or more tasks that requires complex cognitive processing cannot be carried out simultaneously. Like this, we can do it. Like, mainly this is very common among men. Like, you can do some cooking work and at the same time maybe talking on the phone. I know it is not advisable, but then we have a tendency to do it. So when you are driving and then you put on the earphone and you're listening on it, but you can't do more than that. Like, you can't do another 2 or 3 activities because you may not be able to function because of the limited capacity channel. So that is another form of attention, right? Another last one is the vigil function. What is this vigil function? Maintaining attention on a task continuously, right? For some time, like looking at the radar screen is like a vigilance or a sustained attention. It has been found that attention to a task for a long is taxing, particularly if the task is monotonous and it leads to decrease in performance. You will be able to understand vigilance better by following this activity. Okay, they are giving you this activity. I think when you are free, you try to, do this activity by yourself, understanding vigilance activity. I am on page number 112, right? They are given it in a box. So when you have free time, you read up because today we have to finish this one, unit 8 and unit 9. Okay. And then you have given types of attention. Varieties are zeroed, nullified by classification draws. According to him, attention is branched. Okay, so you can see a visual here given very nicely types of attention with the arrow marks: non-volitional attention, volitional attention, and then under non-volitional attention, enforced attention, spontaneous attention, and volitional attention. You have implicit attention and explicit attention. Now, all these are very clearly explained here. Okay, so what is non-volitional or involuntary attention? This type of attention is allowed without play of will. That means this is something that happens instinctively, like you don't really have to put an effort by itself. No, by instinct, you tend to give the attention. Okay, so that comes under the non-volitional attention, right? It is also called as spontaneous, like you really don't plan, it just happens, spontaneously. The other one is a volitional or voluntary action. When exercise build upon, that is, you are making a choice, right? When it becomes a volitional attention, because it demands conscious efforts on a side, at least not automatic or spontaneous like that of non-volitional. Attention displayed at the time of solving an assigned problem of mathematics or answering a question in an exam hall. All this is volitional. That means voluntarily you attentively choose what to attend and what not to attend. Okay. Volitional attention is further divided into 2 categories. A single act of volition is sufficient to bring attention in the case of implicit attention. For example, single act of will can arouse attention, right? So in explicit volitional attention, we need repeated acts that will sustain. Here, attention is obtained by repeated acts of will. Okay. So please read up this. You'll have better understanding when you keep continue to read. Now I'm on page number 113, determinants of attention. There are 2 types of factors that influence. Okay, one is the external, the objective factors or condition. Another one is the internal or subjective factors. Now, external or objective factors, conditions generally are those characteristics of outside situation or stimuli which makes the strongest aid for capturing our attention. This can be classified as the nature of stimulus. Okay, all type of stimuli are not able to bring the same degree of attention. A picture attracts more readily than words. Among pictures, the pictures of human beings invite more attention, and those of human beings related to beautiful women or handsome men or attract attention. In this way, an effective stimulus should always be chosen for capturing maximum attention. This will work very well in advertising field, right? When people want to advertise for some, maybe a cream or maybe a shampoo or something, they'll pick up attractive faces. They'll pick up handsome men, to be able to capture the attention. Yes, somebody lifted their hand. Okay. Intensity and size of the stimulus. right? I am on page number 114. In comparison to the weak stimulus, the immense stimulus attracts more attention of an individual. Our attention becomes easily directed towards a loud sound or a bright light or the strong smell, and also in a large building will be more readily to be attended to. So similarly, you take the same advertisement, like, if somebody is coming and demonstrating something, it will be more, the intensity and the size of the stimulus will always matter. Like if they're using a perfume, if they try to demonstrate that, and and you see you like the smell of it, or they make a recipe and you taste that and you like that. That's why when you go to the bakeries and all, they'll give you something to taste. So, okay, so that they can, you'll feel, increase your stimulus to wanting to, buy that product. Okay, so that is, I mean, you can think about that when you're thinking about intensity and the size of the stimulus. Then contrast, change, and variety. Change and variety strike attention more easily than the sameness and the absence of change. Example, we do not notice the ticking sound of the clock put on the wall until it stops ticking. That's any change in the attention to which you have been attracted immediately. Capture your attention. The factor contrast or change is highly responsible for capturing attention of the organism and contributes more than the intensity, size, or the nature of the stimulus. Repetition of stimulus is a factor of great importance in securing attention because one may ignore stimulus at first instance. If it is repeated several times, it captures the attention. That's how you find repeated advertisements every day. You see also, you'll find advertisements getting repeated so that they get our attention to buy their product, or or to register for their whatever they are, maybe an online program and things like that. Movement of the stimulus. The moving stimulus catches attention more quickly than the stimulus that does not move. We are more sensitive to objects that move in the field of vision. Advertisers make use of this fact and they try to catch attention to the moving electric lights. Okay. And then we come to the internal or subjective factors. Now, these are all external objective conditions for attention. And what are the internal factors? The factors predispose. They predispose the individuals to respond to objective factors, to attend these activities and fulfill desires and motives that suits interest and attitude. It is the mental state of the perceiver. Some of the subjective factors are interest, motives, or mental. Like this is more to do with the individual. Okay, so interest is said to be the mother of attention. We attend to objects to which we have interest, right? So for example, like if you're watching television, there are so many channels there, and there are so many different programs that is running. But what catches our interest is what we are interested. Suppose I am interested in music, I will definitely switch on the music channel. Or if I am interested in watching some news, I will switch on the news, right? So it is very subjective. The attention on what the individual is interested will focus on the interest the person has. Motives. What is motive? A basic needs and motives to a great extent, determines our attention, like thirst, hunger, sex, curiosity, fears of some of the important motives that influence attention. Now, small children get attracted to this towards it. Attention is also, depend on the kind of motives one has, right? So that is what they are given you examples of, hunger, thirst, and things like that, right? Are some of the important motives that influences attention. Yeah. Then mindset. Person's readiness to respond determines his attention. If we are expecting a stimulus occurrence of the stimulus along with many other stimuli, may not come in the way of attending to a particular stimulus. At that time, students are expecting the examination timetable by the end of the semester. The timetable put on the notice board along with the other notice would attract this attention. Okay, mindset. Right. If we are student, right, and whatever is put on the notice board, we will not look at the other things. We are only look at what is concerned with the student life. So timetable, for example, or any other notification, for example. But they can put so many other things also. But the mindset. Suppose a teacher goes and looks at the, may not be a teacher, or maybe somebody else who walks into the college or somebody, they want to look at them. They may not be very keen on looking at the timetable. Can you kindly unmute, Ma? Whoever is that, please unmute yourself. Please mute yourself. Sorry. Okay. So moods and attitudes. What we attend to is influenced by the moods and attitude. For instance, when we are distressed or angry mood, we notice that the smallest mistake of others very easily. Likewise, our favorable and unfavorable attitudes also determine attention. However, subjective and objective factors interrelated. How much or in what way we attend to stimulus depends on the subjective as well as the objective factors. Okay. Phenomena of attention. I am on page number 115. I'm on page number 115. The phenomena of attention are based on the duration
Excuse me,
and
ma'am.
degree of attention. Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am. It is page number 119 in our textbooks, ma'am.
Okay, but with me it is a phenomena of attention. Huh?
Yes, ma'am. Phenomena of attention. It is in
Okay,
119, ma'am.
okay. But I think I have got a Xerox copy, so my page numbers are slightly different. But go by the heading, right?
Okay,
Go
okay,
by the
ma'am.
heading and the unit. We are on
Okay.
unit number 8, and according to you, the page is 119. Thank you,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you for telling me.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am. Thank you.
So
Thank
students,
you.
others also please note. Thank you so much. Yes. So let us look at now page number 119 as per the phenomena of attention, right? So what is the phenomena of attention, right? Phenomena of attention, they are the span of attention, apprehension, division of attention, distraction of attention, and fluctuation of attention. So take each one. Span of attention. Somebody messaged something. I just want to know what is that. Okay. Span refers to the number of letters or digits or sounds that an individual can grasp within a given period of time. Using an instrument called stethoscope, it is an experimentally proved that an individual can grasp 4 to 5 digits or letters easily within a fraction of time. It is also proved that the span will be more for a meaningful material like words than digits or nonsense syllables. It may be observed that the digits on number plates of automobiles, vehicles are restricted to 4 only. Okay. So span of attention. That is what is all about span of attention. And they have given us an example and how they are using an instrument, to detect the span. And in order that we are able to, especially in a moving vehicle or something, it is not easy to have a long number plates to be able to remember. That's why very strategically the vehicles will have only four digit number, so that in a quick moving span we'll be able to detect it. Division of attention. Attending to more than one act at a time is known as the division of attention. In such situation, we will divide our attention towards more than one act. For example, a tailor will be stitching the clothes and also speaking to the customers, right? Previously also we spoke about how we can be driving. Suppose you are driving a car, you can be sitting and speaking to the person who is sitting next to you. A nurse will be observing the pulse of the patient and also will be changing her changes and also changes on his face. We ride the scooter while speaking. Okay, so all this is related to division of attention. Kindly read a little more. You will have better understanding. Now I'm moving on to, as per your textbook, it should be page number 110, I think, right? Okay, so distraction of attention. When our
120.
attention 110, right?
No, 120, ma'am.
Huh?
120, 120.
120, yeah? Okay, fine.
8.8.
Thank you, Ma. So page number 120. So distraction of attention. When our attention is concentrated on a particular or set of stimulus, or some other more powerful stimulus may draw attention and holds to remain there for more time, right? For example, while reading a book, our concentration will be on the book. Meanwhile, we listen to attractive music or sound, our attention may be shifted towards such circumstances physically. We may be reading a book, we may not be able to follow the contents. Students are more affected by distraction. Yeah. Some people will even switch on the TV and will be reading, or they'll be even switching on their mobile phone and listening to music and will be reading. But it depends on what you're paying attention to. For students, it is difficult because you are wanting to study, and then if you're having this Like just now we had a nice distraction, Jari Mitaya song coming in between, right? Catching our attention. Okay, so that is a kind of a distraction, yeah, which happened in the class right now. Okay, then we move on to the next, fluctuation of attention. It appears for us that attention can be concentrated on a particular act for more time. But careful observations clearly shows that we cannot concentrate on a single act or a stimulus for more than few seconds. When we are seeing an object or listening to a sound, after a few seconds, the attention will be shifted towards other stimulus or other areas. The process is called fluctuation, right? Fluctuation is nothing like how we have tubelets. Sometimes the lights fluctuate, right? It comes and goes, it comes and goes, especially the tube lights. If it has been switched on for a long time, used for a longer period of time. So similarly, when we are trying to focus attention for a longer period of time, we may not be able to concentrate, right? That's why I always encourage students, please don't study continuously for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. It is very difficult to concentrate. What you do, simply after every hour, like, or at least after every 45 minutes, you take a break. That's why you see even our classes are 45 minutes, right? If you look at the school timetable or the college timetable, every 45 minutes, the classes change, the teachers change, right? And then you also have an interval, right? So it is very important, right? So fluctuation of attention happens when you continuous period of time, you're trying to attend to something, but then you are not able to pay attention to that. Then what happens? That you fluctuate. Okay, right. So there is a summary now on the same page, number 120. And check your progress is there. So with this, we are done by unit number 8. Okay, so go through. You have nicely, very nice summary is given here. Go through the summary. And last time somebody also wrote to me asking me how many lines they should write for the long answer, how many lines they should write for the short answer. So please look at your own textbooks, ma. See here, the model question is given. Explain the function of attention. What are the different types of attention? Explain all this, they are written here on the top. Following questions, answer in 10 lines, right? And below they are given another, define attention, discuss determinants of attention with examples. It is 20 lines. Okay, so you follow what is given in the textbook, follow what the norms of the university are, right? So we are now finished with attention. From unit 9, we move on to perception. That is the unit, unit 9. Unit 9. Okay, so what is the number, ma, in your textbook?
It's an 123, ma'am.
123, yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, ma. So 123, take that page. It is perception. Now let us look at the objectives, right? What are we going to learn? We have another half an hour. If we finish this today, we will complete unit 8 and unit 9, so that tomorrow we can finish with 10 and 11. If we have little time, we can interact with one another. Okay. The objective of this unit is to differentiate between sensation and perception. Explain phenomena of figure and ground and the principle of perceptual organization. Describe depth perception and movement perception. Analyze perceptual constancies. Explain perceptual distortions and identify factors influencing perception. Okay. While we deal, let us look at the introduction, what they are given, right? We live and deal with a three-dimensional world which contains objects of different shapes and forms and size and colors. Generally, our experiences of the external world is quite accurate and error-free.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sorry?
Ma'am, can we write our questions in our own words?
Questions is already given, no? Answers, you
Answers,
mean?
ma'am. Answers.
Yes, you can write, but you make sure that you use the words, right? So if it is attention, you must use the word attention. And if it is perception, you should use the word perception, right? You can write, like, so for example, if you're talking about perception, now I'm explaining to you. You can take the basic definition and see if you can write it in your own words. It should give the meaning of perception.
Okay, ma'am.
If you're able to give the meaning of perception and if you're able to communicate understanding, then I think it is fine. Okay, ma'am?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So, however, we do encounter illusion, perceiving a rope in the night, right? As a snake. To survive and live in the world, we must get accurate information from the environment. This information is gathered by our sense organs. 10 in all, 8 of these are external: vision, audition, smell, taste, touch, warmth, cold, pain. And the 2 internal are deep senses, that is the vestibular and kinesthetic. How do we construct a world of reality from the information that we receive from our sense organs? Okay, so now they are given us an example, right? Suppose you're walking in the dark and you find a big rope. It's a hose pipe, like, somebody watering the garden, thick one, right? It's dark, you're not able to see, and suddenly you touch it. What kind of feel you will get? You'll feel like as though it is a snake. No, because the whole environment, the darkness, right? And then the fear that you have when you're walking alone, right? And you're trying to cross the path, right? And then it is like a snake, right? The shape of the water pipe, is in the form of a snake. And you can't see the whole big pipe. You are only able to see a small patch of it, right? So all this, what happens? The sense organs, everything influences to us to look at these things, right? And perceive it in a particular way, right? So when you are going in the night and look at a small patch of a hose pipe that is running around, and we are just seeing a partial of it, not full, and it is totally pitch dark, then naturally, because of the subject to internal fears and also the external environment, we perceive it as a snake. Now, every person has a different perception. Each of us perceive the world around us in different ways. It is our perception of the reality which shapes and directs our behavior and some objective understanding of external reality. For example, if one person on the hillside perceives that it is cold, he will reach for the sweater. On the other hand, if the person standing next to him perceive that it is warm, he will remove his sweater. Thus, contrasting behavior can be witnessed happening at the same time, regardless of actual ambient temperature as measured by a thermometer. Okay, so perception varies from person to person. For example, now how many of us are in this class? We are some 11 or 12 or 18, I don't know, whatever number we are there. Okay, so 18 of us are together, but each of us will have different perception. If we are 18, we will have 18 different perception. If you are 15, we are 15. Even in a family, if there are 4 people will have 4 different perception about the same thing. It could be the weather, it could be something that you want to, something that related to, maybe your breakfast or whatever, right? Our perceptions will always vary, and it is very, very depending on the individual person, right? Because each of us perceive life in a very, very different way and a unique way. Okay, so if you understand this, now let us look at what are the definition of perception. Okay, having said that, each of us have different stimuli. So every day, every different stimuli around us will be stimulating our sense organs. Many of the stimuli are reserved by our sense organs and are converted into sensations. These sensations are transmitted to concerned parts of the brain. In turn, the brain will interpret this sensation. And it is only after such interpretation, we understand what stimulus is. Hence, in understanding the world around us, attention occurs first, followed by sensation, and finally interpretation of the brain. The process of interpretation of a stimuli is known as perception. Okay. Somebody asked me what is perception. This is what I'm trying to explain. Perception is not only just what you see, like, when you see, your sense organs are involved, right? Just like, suppose you are sitting on the, let me give you an example of perception, how we perceive. Suppose you are looking at a glass of water, right? From one side, another person is sitting on the opposite side. Okay, so one person can see and tell the glass is almost full. Another person from the other side can see the glass is half empty, right? There is a difference. Yes or no? The person feels the glass is half empty. That is how he is perceiving what he is seeing. He is looking at the empty part of the glass. Are you with me, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
somebody
ma'am.
asked me that question. That's why I'm
Yes,
taking
ma'am.
a long time, and then we rush because we have to finish. Okay, so person looks at the empty part of the glass will say the glass is half empty, right? And the person who looks at the half glass full will perceive and say half glass is full. You understand now? Both are looking at the same thing, but the way they are perceiving that one thing, same thing what they're saying is different. Like there are two prisoners. They're looking outside the prison walls, right? So one is looking at the sand, another one is looking at the moon. Assumption is you assume, yeah, but your assumption also comes from the perception, how you perceive, right? Now I assume that everybody is understanding what I'm teaching, right? That's my assumption. I may be right or I may be wrong. Now, why am I thinking like that? I am thinking because I'm explaining, that is why. But it need not be so also, right? So it is my perception. Now, your perception of me will be different. So perception will vary and it depends on the way we see, and it depends on how we understand what we see and what we understand, how we interpret what we understand, right? So when you look at the definition, it is very clear that says that, stimulus here. The world around us, attention occurs first, okay, followed by the sensation and finally interpretation of the brain. This process of interpretation of stimulus, right? What is the process of interpreting the stimulus? The process is that I use the sense organs to see those things, right? And understand through those sense organs, right? And then when I not only understand, I interpret what I understand. So this process of interpretation of stimulus is known as perception. So perception involves two processes, sensation and interpretation. But interpretation of any stimulus requires past experience also. For example, a child who has not seen an elephant earlier, either in photo or directly, cannot identify that animal. Whereas another child who has seen earlier will be able to identify the animal easily. For example, if you have not seen Delhi before, you will not be able to identify anything when you go there, right? If a person who's already seen that, and when the person goes there, he'll be able to identify. So it is as simple as it. Hence, perception may be defined as a process of interpretation of present stimulus on the basis of past experience. Perception is not as simple as it said here. It is an integrated approach. It is a synthetic process where different physiological and psychological processes are involved. For example, accuracy of the sense organs, clarity of sensation, mental set of individuals. So I've underlined all this, okay? It is a synthetic process where different physiological and psychological processes are involved, okay? So how do we justify what we say physiological and psychological? That is the accuracy of the sense organs, clarity of the sensation, and mindset of an individual, etc. Okay, so here we see, otherwise perception may go wrong. Perception may be defined as a dynamic psychological process responsible for attending to organizing and interpreting sensory data. That is the process of interpretation of stimulus is perception. Okay, now difference between sensation and perception. Okay, our sensory system gathers information from external and internal world. Further, by taking into account our past experience of knowledge, memory, motivation, cultural background, beliefs, attitudes, etc. Okay, from the internal system, the brain makes sense out of the signals and that it receives from the different sense organs. Thus, we receive information from external world, and with the help of the internal system, we construct a world of reality, right? It is also called the frame of reference, like how I see, how I feel, how I experience life, will totally depend on my own subjective experience of how I'm utilizing the sense organs to be able to see, to be able to understand, and to be able to interpret what I understand. Thus, we can say that the term sensation refers to the initial detection of energy from the physical world. The study of sensation generally deals with the structure and the process of sensory mechanism and the stimuli that affects those mechanisms. The term perception, on the other hand, involves higher order of cognition in the interpretation of the sensory information. Okay, so sensation refers to initial detection of stimuli and perception to the interpretation of things. We sense. When we read a book, hear a concept, have a massage, smell a cologne, or taste a caviar, we experience far more than the immediate sensory stimulation. Each of the sensory events is processed with the context of knowledge of the world. Our previous experience gives us meaning to simple sensory experience, and that is perception. Okay. So you have questions here. Compare your answer with one given to the end of this. Define perception. You can look at your own page. According to one of our students here, it is on page number 123, right? And then explain the difference between sensation and perception, right? It is, I think, maybe on page number 124. I don't know. Kindly look at your textbook. You have heading very clearly written. Okay. Phenomena of figure and ground. Perception is an organized process. The most common form of perceptual organization is called ground organization, for which sensations are grouped into objects or figures that stand out on a planar ground. Look at figure number 9.1. Do you see a vase or a face? Okay. Can you see that figure, ma? Vase or two faces? Which page are we on? Can you please help me?
It's
Which
on
page?
126, ma'am. 126, ma'am.
121.
I think different people have different pages.
No, ma'am, it's a new material. 126 page number, ma'am.
Okay, in the new material, it is 126. If it is the old material, it should be on 121. So whatever it is, just be aware we are on unit number 9, and
Yes,
we are
ma'am.
talking about perception, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we are looking at the figure, yeah, which is given here, whether it is a vase or a two-face. Now you look at that. If you are having the textbook, look at that figure, and you'll be able to see, each of us will have different perception of this figure, what you are seeing. Okay. And so reversible ground is a favorite demonstration of the ground. Now note that lighter portion or the darker portion can be perceived as a figure against a background. Imagine its figure, grounded segregation was not there, how confusing the world would have been for us. Perhaps perceptual organization would not be possible. For example, in figure number 9.1, the random shape stands out as a figure and the page becomes a black background. Another example, whatever written on blackboard by your teacher becomes a figure and the blackboard becomes the ground. You are able to understand, no? It is very simple. What they are examples also what they are given. Okay. So the distinction between the figure and the background are presented below. The figure has a shape while the ground is relatively shapeless. The ground seems to extend behind the figure. The figure has some of the characteristics of a thing, whereas the background appears like unformed material. The figure usually tends to appear in the front, the ground behind. The figure is more impressive, meaningful, and better remembered. Okay. So this is all about the figure and the ground. The figure is the what comes out, what can be seen. The ground is what is the background, right? It can be a blackboard, right? Where if a teacher writes or where you draw, or it can be a full white canvas. It's a plain white canvas and the painter put something on that and that will be the figure, right? So that is whatever you see, right? So it is where you project on, whether you are projecting on the full background as a white or a black, or are you focusing only on the matter that is on the white surface or the black surface. Okay. Now, principles of perceptual organization. Our categorization process and the search for meaning and pattern are key characteristics of perception. The perceptual work is captured by the concept of perceptual organization. Perceptual organization is the process through which incoming stimuli are organized or patterned in a systematic and meaningful ways. Max Rethner first identified the principle by which the process of perceptual organization operates. Okay, the law or principles of perceptual organization. Okay, so the Gestalt psychologists in Germany, Gestalt psychologists are a group of psychologists who believed in one particular theory called the Gestalt theory. Okay, principally Kohler-Koffer and Rittimer proposed that the brain has an innate capacity for organizing perception. They identified the laws of organization which determines the way in which we perceive the objects. They maintain that the electrical fields in the brain are responsible for organizing the perception. Okay. Now, move to the next page. Okay, there are plenty of figures there. Can you all see the figures, ma? When you are in unit number 9, 9, 5.1, 9, 5.2, 9, 5.3, 9, 5.4, 5.5, 9, 5.6, okay? All these are figures. Can you all see the figures?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the law of pregnancy, okay, the good form. The first figure, no, we look at that. You look at that clearly. The law states that the perceptual organization will always be as good as the prevailing conditions allow. The simplest organization requires the least cognitive effect will always emerge. Pregnancy means that we perceive the simplest organization that fits the stimulus pattern. It is called the law of simplicity, right? So when you look at these rings, it looks very simple, each one entangled in one another. Yeah. We see this image. How do we see this image? We see this image as round circles, right? Very clearly, and how they are placed, right? And how they are placed and how they are linked with one another. For us, we just look at it, we can easily make out. Okay. So this is how it is organized when but this is out in a very simple way, right? It is organized itself. Okay. So that is a good form, right? Prevailing condition that the simplest organization, the least cognitive effort, right? We don't have to complicate ourselves to understand it because it is so clearly. Okay, next, proximity. All the stimuli that occurs together in space or time will be organized together. Look at this figure, right? All these boxes are in close proximity to one another. You see, each box is placed one below the other, one at the side of the other, and next on the side. You see, everything is very evenly organized, but it is in close proximity. It is not very far from each other. Proximity means close. Okay. So all the stimuli that occurs together in space of time. Okay. When you look at this way, while they continue to be separate. So even though when you look from far, it will look like one big square box, right? But if you look at it from close, you will see each one of it is a smaller box by itself, but they are all close to each other in close proximity. Okay, so that is the law of proximity. Like from it will look like one hole, but actually in that one big hole, you have the smaller ones organized it very systematically. Right. The next one is, are you with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Similarity. The other things being equal, elements which are similar in structure or have common characteristics will be grouped together. 3 triangles, 3 circles, and 3 triangles and columns are grouped together. Can you see that? It is given so nicely. A perceptive cue that involves grouping of the things, right? Here you see there are three different groups. One group is the group of triangle, one is the circle, and what is the other one? 3 triangles, 3 circles, and 3 triangles again. Okay. So you see all that looks like a circle is one below the other. The one that is a triangle form is also one below the other. You see the similarity here, right? One is similar to another and they are grouped. You are not finding a circle one and triangle one. It's not like that, right? All the circles in a row and they are in one group. All the triangles in one group. Okay. So other things being equal elements which are similar in the structure are common. They are grouped together. So this is a similarity, law of proximity and the law of similarity. And then we move on to another one, that is the closure. You see the figure. I don't know which page, Ma, you all are. Please check your pages. I'm on 9.5. Okay. 125, yeah?
124, ma'am.
124. Okay. So 9.5.4. So you'll see here, there are 2 figures given. One is actually a circle, another one is actually a square. But you see the circle is not closed. You can see the circle is incomplete. You can see the gaps, right? 2 gaps on the sides, right? And smaller gaps on the other side. Similarly, for the square also, you will find 2 big gaps and 2 smaller gaps. So an incomplete figure will be seen as complete, right? In figure consisting of incomplete lines that have gap in them. It is perceived as a circle, right? And a square, despite the fact that the sides are incomplete. Okay. So when you look at it like randomly, when you just look at it, it will still look like a circle, despite the fact that there are gaps on either side and there are gaps in the side, both for the circle and the square. A closure like phenomena yields subject contours. In figure 9.5, you will observe that the circle and the square do not exist. The lines forming a circle and the square do not exist. Still, it is compelling to perceive a circle and a square. Okay. So that is about the law of closure. Okay. So you remember these diagrams, ma? Yeah, 126. All of you remember these diagrams. So when you want to talk about this perception thing and you want to, if there is any question about, related to these laws, you can even just remember this, how the perceptual are organized. Remember the circles, the intermingling circle, the square, the similarity, this closure. Even drawing that, and you can just write few lines about it. That will become very clear. Okay, continuity. Perception tends towards simplicity and continuity. Even if there are dots, they are seen as a following the smooth path. Okay, can you see the diagram on figure number 9.6? It is the law of continuity. You can see that. You see how it is. The arrow mark is given. Can you see that? It is all circles, right? But it is placed in such a way, it shows that it is moving towards somewhere. Like, it's coming on two directions. So that is about it is very simple and the same time they are also continuous. Okay, so that is the law of continuity. And next we have 9.5.6 common region. Stimuli that are found within a common area tend to be seen as a group. The principle of common region states that the objects that are within the same region are perceptually grouped together. The signs on the left show that how the message is perceived differently when the words are grouped in different region. Yeah, this is a very interesting perceptual organization. Look at figure number 9.7. Very nice. Okay, law of common region. You see on one side, you have a rectangular shape and then you have stop, war, and below you have peace now. Okay, so if you read stop, if you can also read stop, peace. On the other side, you find stop, peace now, right? So if you divide, first one where it is divided, if you read together, it will be stop war, peace now. Okay, it gives a different meaning. You look at the other one, which is divided, which is divided in a different way, right? If you read that, it will be read as stop, peace, and war. Okay, so law of common region. This is what is the law. Okay, the principle of uniform connection. It explains that the elements that are connected. Please mute yourself. Kindly mute yourself, Ma. The principle of uniform connectedness. It explains that the elements that are concerned are perceived as a single unit. In the image to the left, the points are connected by single bar. And despite the difference in the size of the point, the object is seen as one object. Okay, just look at the figure 9.8. Look at the figure 9.8, law of uniform connectedness. Which page are we on? Which
125.
page are we on? Huh?
125.
135, huh? Okay.
It's 129 in some books, ma'am.
Okay, in some books 129, in some books 135. Okay, so law of uniform connectedness, can you see how it is placed? Can you all see that? Okay, so it is very, very easy to understand. It will look like as though they are separated, but actually it is one single unit. The image is point, the points are connected by a single. Despite the difference in the object is seen as. Let's move on. Symmetry. Objects which are having symmetrical shape are perceived as groups. For example, the brackets of different shapes shown in figure 9.9 perceived meaningfully because they are grouped together and perceived as brackets, right? This is very obvious. You can see how they are organized. No, they are organized in different ways. But ultimately, when you look at from far and you look at it as a whole, it is all brackets, and that is the law of symmetry. Then principle of common fate. The final Gestalt principle is the common fate. The mainly concerns with moving objects. In other words, it is the grouping of objects, things, and animals that move together as being one unison. Example, a fleet of birds, a school of fishes. It is called as a law of synchrony. Okay. So look at figure number 9.110, that is 9.10. You'll find the principle of common fate, where you find a fleet of birds or even a school of fish. Okay. Okay. So you have this thing, explain the figure and the ground phenomena. It is already given. Define the laws of grouping, the Gestalt theory. Talks about it. So we move on to now page number 136 for some, and maybe for others it is page number 139 or something. Okay. So depth perception. Please, depth perception. This is on 9.6. Okay. Are you all with me? I see that everything is gone. Hello, students. Are you with me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Because
Yes,
I suddenly see that my
Yes,
video is
ma'am.
off. I don't know whether you can hear me, but I still continue. Okay. I don't know what is that happening on the screen. Okay.
It's
I
on
will-
page number, ma'am.
Sorry,
It's on page number.
your page numbers. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So depth perception, right?
Ma'am, it's
So it is the
11:30.
ability to see three-dimensional space and to accurately judge distances. Without depth perception, you can't ride on a motorcycle or drive a car, catch a ball or thread a needle, or simply walk around the room. The world around looks like a flat surface. The ability of the depth perception is partly innate. I think we noted it. You can remove the screen. And partly learned. Depth cues are features of environment
and members from the body that supply information about distance, size, and space. If
Yeah.
our judgment about depth and distance were not accurate, we would be colliding.
Yes, very good. Colliding with the objects in the external world. We cannot drive a bicycle or a scooter if our judgments of depth are distance accurate. Okay. So let's understand the following concept now. Distance. This refers to spatial extents between the observer and the object, corresponding to physical distance. There is a perceived distance, sometimes also referred as apparent distance. Like if you are driving a car, you need to understand the spatial difference on either side, because there will be other vehicles passing on your right and some vehicles on the left. If you are able to gauge that spatial, that is what is the distance you are able to manage. Okay, depth, it is the relative spatial extent between two objects as viewed by the observer. For example, the relative extent between two trees are viewed by the observer. Corresponding to physical depth is the perceived depth, the depth perceived by the individual. So, okay, so there are two realities here. One which is already existing, that is the real world. Another one, what is the perception of the individual who is driving the motorcycle or driving the car. Okay, the size, the object has a
Can I, ma'am?
physical size. Yes.
The object has a physical size that is out there. The individual perceives this. It is called perceived size.
Yeah.
The problem is that how do we accurately perceive space, depth, and distance from two-dimensional image on the retina? However, the perception of a space is possible because of the various cues available to us. These cues may be divided into three categories: non-visual cues, binocular cues, and monocular cues.
Very good.
9.6.1.
Yeah. So read, now you continue to read from 9.61. Yeah.
Non-visual cues.
Yeah.
Accommodation and convergence are the two non-visual cues. These cues are called non-visual because they do not emanate from the retinal image, as is the case with other cues. Accommodation. What we call focusing in camera. In the case of eye, we call accommodation. The image of the external objects is focused on the retina with the help of lens in the eye. The lens is adjusted by the ciliary muscles to focus far and near objects on the retina. The ciliary muscle changes the convexity of the lens so that the image of the object is clearly focused, and this process is called accommodation. If the object is relatively at a distance more than 2 meters or so, the ciliary muscle is relaxed. When the object comes nearer and nearer, the muscle contracts more and more, making the lens more convex. The degree of contraction of the ciliary muscle signaled to the brain through the kinesthetic impulses is a possible cue of distance. That is, if the object is farther away from the viewer, the ciliary muscle is relaxed, and when the object is nearer, the ciliary muscle is tense. The extent of contraction in the ciliary muscle feedback to the brain is the cue of the accommodation. However, research indicates the accommodation is a weak cue of perception and depth and distance.
Very good. Okay.
Convergence.
Hmm.
Can you explain accommodation once, ma'am?
See, this is all related to how we are looking through the eyes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
How the lens get adjusted. When the objects are far away, our eyes, the ciliary muscle is more relaxed. As
Yes.
it comes closer and closer, it becomes tense. See, when you're riding or when you're driving, when you see the vehicles are far, you don't feel that much. When it is coming closer and closer, what happens? You start feeling the tense, right? So that is what, when this happens, when the degree of contraction of the ciliary muscle signal to the brain, to the kinesthetic impulses is possible at the cue of distance. If that object is farther away from okay, that is what I told. So when this happens, the extent of contraction in that muscle, that is ciliary muscle, fed back to the brain in the cue of accommodation. So you accommodate accordingly. So that is what is called accommodation. Is it clear?
Yeah, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you. Convergence. When you
Hmm.
read the letters of the printed line, you converge your eyes with the help of 6 intraocular muscles located outside each eye to bring the image in the both eyes to fall on the fovea of each eye for fusion and clear vision. The extent of the convergence achieved is signaled to the brain, and this provides a cue to distance. For example, if the object is nearer, the angle of convergence will be large, and as the object first goes farther away, the angle of convergence decreases. For objects at a far away distance, the eyes are more or less parallel. The extent of convergence achieved is feedback to the brain, and it is a cue to distance. Again, research indicates that, like accommodation, it is a weak cue of perception and distance.
Yeah. It's clear?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Yeah. Let's move on. Binocular cues.
Binocular cues. Binocular cues emanate from the retinal image itself. The cues are A, double images, B, binocular disparity. Double image. When we fixate our eyes on an object in space, fusion takes place and we see one object. However, when we fixate one on an object, all other objects nearer or farther than the fixation point fall off on the non-corresponding points and produce double images. You can try this phenomenon. Take 2 pencils, hold them vertically in a line in front of your nose, one nearer and the other farther away. Now fixate your eyes on the nearer pencil. The image of this pencil falls on the corresponding points as you converge your eyes and accommodate, and fusion will take place. You will be able to see the pencil. However, the image of the other pencil will be double as it falls on the non-corresponding points, and fusion will not take place. Similarly, if you fixate on the farther pencil, the image of the nearer pencil will be double. However, the double images you have just experienced are not similar in nature. The first will be uncrossed double image and the second will be crossed. Thus, when we get uncrossed double images, the object is the farther than the fixation point. On the other hand, when we get crossed double images, then the object is nearer than the fixation point. This is known as double images.
When you are free, you do this exercise with the pencil. Okay, you will get more clarity. It is a very simple exercise. Okay, so let's go on. Yeah.
Binocular disparity. Objects that are the nearer and the farther than the fixation point project their internal images on the non-corresponding disparate areas of the two retinas. Greater the distance from the fixation point, greater will be the binocular disparity. That is, disparity increases as the distance of the object from the fixation point increases. This retinal disparity is the possible cue about the distance of the object from the fixation point. This is known as the binocular disparity.
Very good.
Can I read from?
Yeah, what's your name, Ma? So far you read.
This is Nagamani, ma'am.
Nagamani, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
ma'am.
for reading. I hope you really, understand whatever is it. Read the
Yeah, ma'am.
textbooks nicely and believe that you all will be able to do very well. Yeah,
Thank you
somebody
so
wanted
much,
to
ma'am.
volunteer. Yes,
Yes.
who's that? Who's that?
I'm Swati.
Swati. Come on, Swati. You read from 9.6 to 6.3. Yeah.
Okay.
Monocular cues.
Monocular cues are called pictorial cues because they include kind of depth information found in the photographs and paintings. These cues are extensively used by the artist in their paintings. These cues are interposition, aerial perspective, linear perspective, lights and shadows, familiar size, texture, density, gradient. Let us consider the cues briefly.
Yeah.
9.6.31.
Yeah.
Interperception. When an object A particularly blocks another object B, the object blocked is perceived farther away than the object blocking it. See figure 9.11. These cues develop early in the children. The baby penguin is overlapping its parent in this picture. When we image overlapping another image, the clue, it is interpreted by our brain to be closer to us. Depth perception.
Yeah, you can see the image now, everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, very
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
Aerial perspective.
Yeah, aerial perspective. When you look at buildings in the city, buildings close by look clearer and their boundaries, counters are well defined in comparison to distant ones, which look gray and hazy. The buildings, trees, and the other objects that look hazy are perceived far away in comparison to those which look clear. Ma'am, can I read the next one?
Yeah, linear perspective. Yes.
Yeah,
Swati
linear
only.
perspective. Yeah.
Swati. Okay, very good.
When parallel lines recede into distance as railroad tracks, they converge towards a point in your retinal image. See figure 9.12. Further, the farther away object facial face, the closer they appear to be each other. On the other hand, the two objects near us appear apart from each other. This cue appears much later in children.
Okay. You can see the diagram on the linear perspective, right? Rail tracks. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
9.6.34 Lights and shadows. We are often aware of the source and direction of light. It is generally from above as sunlight. The shadows cast by one object on another can indicate which object is farther away. So they have given a figure now.
Okay.
96.35 familiar size. Because you know the height of your friend, you can judge the distance at which he is standing. This is possible because we always store the memory image of the object that we see. When we look at an object which is away from us, we can interpret the distance from the retinal image by taking into account the familiar size. You can do this activity. Take a playing card and present it to your friend at a distance of 10 feet from him. Ask him to judge the distance at which the card is placed. He will be quite accurate in judging the size of the playing card. This is because he is familiar with the size of the card which is away from the same standard size.
Yeah.
Texture density gradient. Look at the plot field. The nearer surface looks rough. As we extend our vision farther away, the texture gets finer. Similarly, if you look at the grass nearby, you will be able to see the blades of grass clearly. But as you extend your vision to a distant point, the ground looks as if painted green and the blades of the grass are no more visible. This texture gradient is a cue to distance. The objects lying on a surface that look fine and smooth in texture are perceived at greater distance than those objects on a rough surface.
Yeah. You can see,
In
you can see the images here, which is very, very clear and very, very obvious. Okay. So I really thank Nagamani and Swati for reading this, because it is nice that you participate. Otherwise, it will be boring voice only of mine. Okay.
It's our pleasure, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
We have just one more class, that is tomorrow, and then we must finish this whole book. So what I suggested that you all read up this movement perception, perceptual constances, and perceptual distortions, right? And then there is hallucination, factors influencing perception. And I think that, yeah, with that, this unit number 9 will get over. So just go through this 3 pages. I don't know the page numbers. I don't want to say my page numbers. Okay, because your page numbers are different. Okay, I just say that movement perception, that is from 9.7 to 9.12, right? Just read up that. And tomorrow we will just briefly two lines like that. We'll try to understand. I'll tell you one small tip. Keep reading. Like today, if you have, we have gone through this unit 8 and 9. Again, you try and read through it. You will have a better understanding. Keep the images in mind so that when you are able to, even if you are able to forget, the answer, when you get the image in mind, you'll start getting the words. Okay. So I think I would better like to close my session now, because I have another session after a few more minutes. And thank you very much for listening. And thank you for volunteering, Swati and Nagamani. Tomorrow, I hope there will be somebody else who would like to volunteer.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And by the way, can we get your number, ma'am, regarding our exam doubts, ma'am?
Actually, I have given you my email ID is better, ma. My number is a very busy number because it is a suicide prevention helpline also.
Okay, fine, ma'am. Can you get? Can we get your email ID, ma'am?
Email ID I've already given. If you don't have, I'll give it. And somebody has in the class? Okay, note down, ma. JANET, all small letters. J for jam, A for apple, N for number, E for England, and T for timber. Okay, JANET. Janet, DAV. D for Delhi, A for Andhra, V for van. Janet Dave, JANET, DAV @gmail.com. Okay, that's my email ID. And actually, administration questions. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Swati. That's
it's
okay. Yeah. So I will not be able to answer administrative questions because that is related to you. Somebody also asked me when is the practicals. Actually, to be very honest, I have no idea, because I don't see it will be in the first year, but it should be sometime. I have no information is given to me, or if there is a possibility, if I know, I will definitely be able to communicate to you. In some way, at least to those people who are emailing me. Yeah,
exactly there for practical exams like psychology. What will we have to do?
Actually, see, all the details I will not be able to give you now, right? Give me some time, because I don't want to give you anything. Yeah, I tell you something and then you go there and something else happens, it will be very bad. Okay, so let's wait for the notification and let's see what is there in store for us. Okay, till then, you focus on whatever we are studying and try to learn up this. I don't know whether you are, there will be some notes, no, that's supposed to write and submit. Whether it is given on the net, I have no idea.
No, it's not given.
Okay, we'll have to check all that. Okay,
Ma'am, there is no information about anything, ma'am. Please, do you have time? Can you explain us about exam paper, ma'am? We don't know. We are somewhere nervous about exam paper.
See, at every chapter, ma, the examination model is given. The questions that you see at the end of every chapter, ma, is a model exam questions only. So the examination will be like that only, right? There will be maybe 20 lines questions, 10 lines questions, 5 lines. I don't know, maybe sometimes they'll add fill in the blanks, because here I see some fill in the blanks. They are given you the model. If you look at the last page, I don't know your page number. My page number is 165. they are giving you the model question paper here. They are given you answer any 4 questions in about 10 lines. They are giving you 8 and carries 5 marks. Right? There is section A, section B, and section C.
Yes, ma'am, in
Yeah.
page number
Yeah,
171.
I don't know because my page I cannot tell you since you have a different page numbers. Okay. So the model exam question is given ma at the back. Just go through it. And if there is any problem for you in any of the questions that you are not able to answer, let me
give
try
us
and
an important
Yes.
question?
Huh?
Can you give us an
There's
important
no
question?
important question. It's better to read up everything. So at least you'll be able to write whatever. Because if you read everything, the advantage is in case you get the fill in the blanks or match the following, you should be able to attempt. If you read up only the important questions, what happened? You will miss out on other things. So just be careful. Even if you are reading 50%, very nice, but make sure that 50% at least you are aware of it. Okay? So see you tomorrow again, same time, 10:30, and we will continue with our lessons. Thank you and God bless you. Have a nice Sunday. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thank
so much, ma'am.